Yeah, for the first time unmasked, not at all, but in front of the camera of German Rolling Stone. Hello, Tobias Forge of Ghost. Nice to having you.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You are touring with Metallica these days with your band Ghost. How's that?
It's entertaining. I mean, it's summer, and for the most part, the weather is nice, and it's a very relaxed tour. The pacing of the tour is quite different from what we usually do. We usually tour 6 weeks straight with 5-6 shows every week and 2-hour shows, which means that it's a lot of work. You need a lot of time to sort of, in between shows, I usually stay very still. Whereas on this tour, we play 1 hour every second or every third night. So you have a lot of time just to spend in cities. I go home as well, so.
And a lot of time to see a lot of Metallica shows. How important have they been to your personal upbringing?
They have been crucial. They have, yeah, absolutely. They have been extremely important. I listen to a lot of different music, and I've listened to a lot of things even before I started listening to Metallica. But as far as nurturing the dream of wanting to be like a big metal artist, I'd say that they have been like I mean, obviously they are the pinnacle of metal. But they were, yeah, ever since I got to be a real fan of them, I guess. I knew who they were before, and my brother was a big fan of them, so I knew beforehand who they were, and I knew songs here and there. But basically when the Black Album came out, that was the first record that I got, like that I bought when it came. And I saw them on that tour. And ever since, they've been a very influential band and inspired me musically and also graphically, I guess, to a certain degree, but also like stage-wise and also in terms of work ethics. From a fan perspective, if I were to talk to my little 14-year-old self, or 11-year-old, even better, 10-year-old, it would be mind-blowing.
You obviously did a couple of interviews. Does it still feel strange sitting in front of a camera, unmasked, undisguised every once in a while, or did you somehow get used to it?
The hardest bit is not to sit like this. The hardest, but the most odd thing is occasionally seeing it when you see the media itself someplace. I am getting used to doing it like this, but over the years, most of the interviews I have done for magazines, even though the media itself was not filmed, has been like this. So I'm used to talking, but also talking in front of a journalist. So that and just the fact that the camera is here is just a.
You once said, coming out from the small Swedish city of Linköping, that you couldn't think of becoming a rock star or whatever coming out of this surrounding, and so you had to like disguise yourself, put on a masquerade, whatever, to actually make it possible for yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, well, the upside of my setup is that I don't have to make an effort more than physically, but to be able to take my mask off and no longer being the guy on stage. Where many artists don't have that possibility because their on-stage persona and their off-stage persona closely resembles each other, especially the appearance is whomever they feel like when they've stepped off stage doesn't correlate with what people see.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
which is I don't have that problem, because as soon as I am not on stage and I'm not in that attire and wearing that guise, no one really expects me to be like that, which colors my way of being as well. Whereas if you are expected to be that person, a lot of people have problems because then you step into a forum because everybody expects you to be a certain way. You might actually trigger that, and you want to become that supernatural on-stage being, even in personal, in real life, and that can become a problem.
Yeah, and that makes it easier for you to separate your private life from your public persona, to say so.
Exactly. But I definitely felt as a kid that you needed to transform, you needed to metamorphically sort of, or like you needed to morph into this supernatural being that couldn't originate from the street where I grew up in.
Speaking of which, I mean, is it true that you made your first public appearance, to say so, at the age of 7, playing the blues classic Love in Vain on the guitar already?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
7-year-old, so the guitar was your first instrument that you learned to play, or how?
Yes. Well, my first, actually I'd say it was the drums, in a way. The drums and broomstick.
Yeah, it's fun for kids, huh? Drums are...
No, because my mom had like knitting, knitting sticks.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So I could drum with those on our couch. So that was...
Your first ever drum set was a couch, to say so.
Yes, because the broomstick didn't make any noise, except for me making that. So I guess that our poor couch was the first instrument, but guitar was the first instrument that I learned.
Proper one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And is there any instrument that you don't play at all? I mean, you seem to play...
I don't play most instruments.
Okay.
I play guitar, I can play bass, I can play drums, and then I can sort of but when it comes to composition and arrangement, I can sort of maneuver in claviature, but I can't play it.
But you wouldn't be able to play it on the stage,
No. I'm not. I don't have the fluency. Okay. But I can sort of pick out like, oh, this is how the melody goes. This is this chord. This is that chord. And I can, I can work around it, especially in the studio environment. It's fine.
And even back then, as a kid, did you already want to make music back in the days? Did you always want to make music, become a musician, or when did that came up your mind?
Before I started playing.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that was you fulfilled your own dream from your childhood on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, from like the first musical memories I have, being 2, 3 years old. 2, 3, 4, something
really?
like that.
That's very early.
I grew up with a very music-loving mother, and a considerably older brother.
He bought all the records, huh? So I read that once, that he bought a lot of records.
Yeah, and when I was 3, he was 16. So we had, there was a very, there was a teenage culture in our house, in our apartment. And that rubbed off on me quite strongly, and influenced everything that I am doing now, and most of the like core, the most bit of the core of what I like and what I like to do, and the music that I like, and the things that I gravitate towards are essentially the same as it was back then. And that was thanks to my brother, because had I been a single child, or I had only siblings that were my age, I wouldn't have been subjected to that amount of teenage culture. I wouldn't have that teenage influence, and that would have been a completely different upbringing.
I mean, the bigger brother with the big record collection is a total classic, and it's so good to have that, I guess. Yeah, that's
Oh,
brilliant.
yeah,
and
for
having
anyone.
such a supportive surrounding when it comes to music is the biggest present you can have in life, I guess.
Oh, of course.